Giannis Antetokounmpo got his hands full, and I don't see him snapping out of it anytime soon.
I got a lot of love for your position because I got a lot of love for Grant Williams. I got a lot of love for Al Horford because he's playing better than I ever expected him to. And he's been a welcome addition. His veteran leadership and what he does for you defensively on that front line is underappreciated, Kendrick Perkins. You're absolutely right about that. But here's why I respectfully disagree with your position about Giannis. I don't believe that the Boston Celtics, at least in the games in Milwaukee, are going to shoot the ball as effectively as they did in Game 2. Long shots, long rebounds, open court opportunities for Giannis. He's going to make layups/dunks, or he's going to get to the free throw line. Now, he's only shooting, shot 54% in Game 1, 55% in Game 2. So I get that. And that might work to the Celtics' benefit. I'm not saying that's going to lead to them losing this series. I still got them winning this series in 7 games, even though Milwaukee gave me cause to pause when they were playing big boy basketball in Game 1. I'm just saying I think in the process of watching Milwaukee lose, I don't think it's going to be because Giannis has been neutralized. I think it's going to be because those pieces around him, Boston found a way to negate to some degree. And they're not going to be as effective as they were in Game 1. It's going to be more like they were in Game 2. I think Giannis is going to be ultra aggressive. I think as a result, he's going to get his shots. He's going to get his opportunities. He's going to get his points. And you got to watch the amount of fouls, particularly when they're in Milwaukee, that are going to get called against Boston. So it's going to be up and down. Don't get me wrong. There's going to be some games where you're absolutely right. But I think there's going to be about a couple of more games where Giannis goes ballistic. That's how I view this.
Well, look, I'm looking at it right now, Stephen A. Okay. Giannis in Game 1 went 9 for 25, okay?
That is correct. That's correct.
In Game 2, he went 11 for 26. We haven't seen Giannis Antetokounmpo not be efficient. We haven't seen Giannis Antetokounmpo struggle like this at field goal attempts when majority of the time he's bullying his way to get into the paint. What I'm telling you right now is that them guys from the Beantown, they're not going. They don't care. They're not backing down from Giannis Antetokounmpo. And it's no disrespect to Giannis, but what I saw in Game 2 was I saw a reflection of a team that the coach has their attention. The way that they came out with their intensity, the way that Ime Udoka is speaking out in the public saying we're not ducking and dodging nobody, we coming straight through whoever, we're going to have to play whoever eventually. And then I go out and I see Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown play with that fire. I see Grant Williams getting into Giannis Antetokounmpo, body him up. I see Al Horford quietly getting physical down there and doing what he has to do. And they didn't even have their defensive player of the year, Marcus Smart. Yeah. Here's why I say they're going to be able to keep Giannis from dominating. Without the Bucks having Chris Middleton, now you're able to put even more attention on Giannis Antetokounmpo. Now, all of a sudden, that late game 3-5 pick and roll that they usually play down the stretch, that's missing because you have to pick your poison. So now, all of a sudden, you key in, you take those driving gaps, you're showing help. All of a sudden, Giannis can't get to the rack like he's accustomed to getting to.
I'm not denying any of that. I'm conceding that has happened. What I'm saying to you is it going to last? And my response to that is no, not throughout the series. I got at least a couple of games where Giannis is going to get off. I know that wasn't the case in games 1 and 2. Easily concede that. I think it'll happen again in 2 more games where Boston will ultimately win this series. But I do believe there's going to be a couple of games where that Giannis Antetokounmpo that you're accustomed to seeing, that you're accustomed to praising his dominance, that you talk about no matter what smoke is brought his way, he answers the call. I think for at least a couple of games, we're going to see that from him. And it'll be enough for this series to go to a 7th game. I don't believe they're going to be able to do this to Giannis the entire series in terms of his inefficiency. I don't believe that's going to last.
Well, look, I agree with you to a certain extent that, listen, Giannis is probably going to have one dominant game. But remember this. You remember when the Brooklyn Nets and the Celtics played in the first round? And you remember after game 1, I came on here and I told you, I said, Kevin Durant got punked. And you said, what? Are you telling me KD got punked? And then you remember you said, oh, he's going to go out there, he's going to have 50. He didn't do that in game 2. I'm just telling you, Stephen A., this Celtic team, this physicality of this front line is the reason that they're the #1 defensive team in the NBA. And I'm here to tell you, if they stay healthy, they're not going anywhere. And I don't disagree. Giannis may have one game, but he's not going to dominate enough for them to win this series.
And I'm saying to you, I think it's going to be 2 games, enough for this to go to a 7th game, and Boston will seal the deal. But I think
so you think Boston's winning?
I think Boston's winning this series in 7 games. But I believe Boston has to hit perimeter shots in order to do it, because I think offensively they don't have much to offer on the interior. They need to rely on their thoroughbreds to bring home, and I think that Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and those boys will pull it off.
Real quick, Molly, Stephen A., guess what? This is how much matchups matter in the playoffs. I strongly believe, just say if Giannis takes over this series and the Bucks win this series against the Celtics, I believe if they go on to play the Miami Heat, they will lose. But I think if the Boston Celtics win this series, which I got them winning in 7, if they was to play the Miami Heat, they would beat the Miami Heat.
Well, let me say this to you. I got the Boston Celtics.
Where do the Celtics rank amongst the NBA's best teams right now, Stephen A.?
Me personally, I got them right now as the best team in the Eastern Conference. That's how I feel about them because of the way they play defense collectively. That's where I'm at with it. I understand the presence of Giannis Antetokounmpo and how he can neutralize anything or nullify anything. I also am watching Miami, and quietly, we all know I'm rooting for the Miami Heat. I mean, it ain't quiet no more. I'm just not denying it. I'm rooting for the Miami Heat, okay? I'm rooting for the Miami Heat. That's where I want to be in June and May. I want to be because we got the Eastern Conference Finals. ESPN has the Eastern Conference Finals this year. So, damn it, I'm not apologizing. I want Miami to win. But the bottom line is that when you look at Boston and the way they play defense collectively, along with the emergence of a Jason Tatum, with a Jaylen Brown and what have you, they made me a little bit nervous last night once Jason Tatum fouled out from that game. I'm just of the mindset that when you really, really look at it right now, because of the way Boston plays defense, because you got 2 dudes that can give you a bucket, because of the defensive wizardry of Marcus Smart and the coaching of Udoka, I'm just of the mindset that right now, I shouldn't say coaching, because even though I love Udoka a lot, I love me some Eric Spoelstra as well, who I consider to be one of the best in the game. But the bottom line, I think right now, if somebody said to me, who you rolling with, it would be Boston. I'm hoping Miami, though.
Well, Boston is the best team in the NBA. Let's make that very, very
in the NBA.
Clear. In the NBA, you heard what I said.
That is not true.
When did you decide that? In all seriousness, I'm not messing with you.
No, really, because Molly, think about this. You remember we were on the show and I said that I would pick Boston to be my favorite, but the only reason that I didn't was because of the injury of Robert Williams. But what the Celtics have shown me is no other team in the NBA that's in the postseason that would have swept and did what they just did to the Brooklyn Nets. That's how great they are defensively. And I know we keep talking about how good or how much of a juggernaut Golden State, the Warriors are. But still in all, offense win you games, defense win you championships. And when I look at these guys as far as their defensive lineup, it's no other team that have the perimeter defenders like the Boston Celtics. Jason Tatum right now is the best 2-way player in the game. Jaylen Brown, we know how he locks down defensively. And don't get me started on Marcus Smart and what he could do to a person. And then you have Big Al Horford, Robert Williams, Grant Williams, and Daniel Tice, who all are defensive-minded people and are capable of sliding those puppies. So when I look at this Celtic team, I'm looking at their defense and I'm saying, who want to face them? Who can't they stop? Go look at the season series when they played against the Miami Heat. I think the Celtics was up 3-1 in that season series. Look, Jason Tatum is a top 3 player in the NBA. This mean version of Jason Tatum, nobody wants to see. and Jaylen Brown playing with a chip on his shoulder the way that both of them are coexisting on the offensive end, nobody wants to see this team, bro, because nobody would have ever exposed Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving like these brothers exposed them. Not one team that's in the playoffs would have swept this Brooklyn Nets team but the Boston Celtics.
I disagree. I think the Golden State Warriors would have swept them.
They ain't sweep Denver.
So what? I mean, listen, first of all, the altitude in Denver, certainly that's number one. Number two, they sat up there and they took for granted because they knew they had them and what have you. We got all of that. That stuff happens.
Excuses.
All right, Jokic, 36 and 36 plus. I mean, we know what they bring to the table. The point that I'm trying to make, I didn't sit up there and say, excuse me, you got to remember, basketball character, Denver showed it. What did Coach Malone say after they lost game 3? He said, yo, we going to find out what we made of. You going to fight or you going to just lay down and let this season come to an end? You going to fight or what? And Denver stood up because they got that kind of basketball character. Let's give credit where credit is due. We'd be talking a lot more about Denver's Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr. were healthy, okay? We'd be talking a lot more about them. They got 2 of their 3 stars injured. That's the reality of the situation. But you look at Barton and Morris and all these guys, they're not scrubs. They're not stars, but they're not scrubs. I know you didn't say that, but I'm saying they're not stars, but they're not scrubs. They can play. And, they got a lot of heart. They ain't scared, and they go out there, and they going to fight you, all right? And that's what they did in Game 4. I'm telling you, it's not about you're looking at Brooklyn from a talent perspective. I'm looking at Brooklyn from a character perspective. When you talk about nobody else would have beaten them, I say nobody else would have swept them. I say otherwise. And I say otherwise because we've had questions about the collective character, and it's not to knock any player specifically outside of Kyrie and Ben Simmons. We understand that they're dealing with a lot. But in the end, because of the distractions both have caused throughout this season, they have been a dysfunctional bunch in Brooklyn. And I think they could have been had once they lost game 1. You just saw things just snowball from there.
Yeah, you know why it snowballed from there? Because of the Celtics and their tenacity and their defense, because they knew they was outmanned.